Hey everybody, good evening. How y'all doing tonight? Hey, I'm here because I had started thinking about some things that I had saw when people were comparing and saying, "Oh, Jussie Smollett and Carlethia Russell's cases are similar." First, I didn't agree. I'm like, no, I don't. But when I thought about it some more, I said, you know what? I need to look into this because it was kind of interesting to me when I started comparing both of their situations and how, from the beginning, how it was planned. So I started thinking, what would make somebody fake a hoax? Even think of one. And both of these were very detailed, very elaborate, like it took time. Um, it was some execution behind it. So I wanted to share my thoughts on what I figured out and what I kind of put together. So before I start, I want to kind of give the definition of what a hoax is. So according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, a hoax is to trick into believing or accepting as genuine something false and often preposterous. That's if it's used as a verb. If it's used as a noun, it's an act intended to trick or dupe, or something accepted or established by fraud or fabrication. So that's their definition of what a hoax is. Now, on my page, I linked in an article from Psychology Today, and it's worth a read if you're interested in this also. But I just wanted to kind of highlight a few things that I saw in there before I get started on the comparison of what Carlethia Russell did and what Jussie Smollett did. So this article is dated May 18, 2017. So it's a bit older, but I noticed there's not like a lot of articles talking about the psychology of a hoax. So maybe that will come now because the hoaxes are coming a lot faster and they're detailed, they're elaborate. So let's just highlight a few things here. I'm going to skip down some paragraphs in this article because I don't want to read all these paragraphs that aren't really getting to what we're talking about tonight. So I'm going to skip down to like the fourth paragraph. It says, the radio show I was interviewed on wanted to know about why people hoax and the underlying psychology of a hoaxer. Before looking at any articles on what motivates a hoaxer, I made a list of all the reasons I could think of what might cause people to hoax. My preliminary list included hoaxing for amusement purposes, out of boredom, as an act of revenge, as a way to gain fame and or notoriety in some way, to gain attention, such as faking an illness, to demonstrate cleverness to others around them, and to disrupt the status quo, and for political causes. So I'm going to go down a little bit more. One online article on hoaxes gave a different list of reasons as to why individuals would carry out hoaxes that was very different from my own speculations. The 5 reasons listed were: 1, to draw attention to their fraudulent skills; 2, gain financial benefits through their deceit; 3, put their bait out and see who falls victim, or target specific individuals to vilify or discredit; 4, especially those who pose a threat; 5, no, that was the continuation of 4. Feed people secret prejudice and beliefs; and 5, to fool people because it's fun. Okay. So he also gave a definition of what a hoax is, so I'll read that. A hoax is a deliberately fabricated falsehood made to masquerade as truth. It is distinguishable from errors in observation or judgment, or rumors, urban legends, pseudosciences, or April Fool's Day events that are passed along in good faith by believers or as jokes. I'm going to go down a little bit more. In a short but interesting online presentation, Chris Jones noted that hoaxers exploit human psychology in order to persuade us to do foolish things. More specifically, Jones asserted that hoaxes prey upon a number of human traits, including goodwill, greed, naivete, fear and anxiety, and a deference to authority. Okay, I think we're wrapping this article up. People have various motives. Some people might be overly helpful. They can have some information and then embellish it. Others might be outright malicious. These are probably fantasists, anxious to help or to associate themselves with events. A lot of callers are attention seekers. They may be people who feel they make no impact on the world, and this is one way they can do it. Rather, as fire setters start fires, then stand back to admire their handiwork. They see people running around and think, I did that. For people who feel they have no power, it is the capacity to influence events. There may be an element of exhibitionism, of getting into the public eye. For the time on the phone, at least everybody is terribly interested in what they've got to say. Anonymity spoils things, but they might deliberately then get caught. It might even become famous as a result in a rather lesser way than those who kill a celebrity. They get fame in a very backhanded way. Okay, so I think we're going to be done with this article. I just wanted to highlight some of those things and give some background before we get started. So I wanted to kind of refer to this whiteboard as I go forward. I posted it on the page so you can check it out and look at it, but a lot of what I'm going to say now is going to be based on what's on this board from top to bottom. So today, I labeled this structuring a hoax because I kind of started thinking, what is the order of this? Like, how do you plan to do this to yourself? Because in the case of Jussie Smollett and Carlethia Russell, I feel like they kind of planned it out in a way that was kind of detailed. It was props involved. It was planning. Like the top 5 things that I saw that they both had was they both devised a very elaborate plan. The second thing was they had a collaborator, and that's a person that's going to get that story out, tell what happened. So it's not just you saying it. When you pull somebody else in, it kind of validates what you're saying because somebody else is speaking for you, even if you can't. Like in Carlethia Russell's case, her alleged abduction, she wasn't speaking for herself. She had a third party kind of telling them what happened. And then part of also the plan is they're playing the victim. It's almost like acting in a way. They're playing like this really happened to them. So they're hurt, they're injured, they're in tears, they're devastated, they feel like, they've been harmed in some way, but it's all pretend. Like they're making up all these emotions and acting them out. The next one is they really, when they do these hoaxes, they're trying to, in Jussie Smollett's case, he was trying to cause outrage because he had hit on every single terrible thing that could happen to a person. It was a hate crime. They hated him because he was African American. They hated him because of his sexuality. He also hit on the fact that, political view, I'm against this, so someone is going to hate on me because of my political view or affiliation. And then he also he used race by saying that his attackers were white. He just hit on every level to create that outrage. It was really disturbing what he did. And then in Carlethia Russell's case, she was really trying to get people to be concerned, you know, create some sympathy, some concern, what happened to her. I think that's why in her situation, she didn't just use herself. She created the idea that there was a missing toddler, a possible missing toddler that she saw, and that there was an urgency, even though her 911 call, it didn't sound like it was urgent. But if you're reporting a missing child or a child that's walking along the highway alone, abandoned, that's definitely going to create some concern. So I think that's what she was looking for in her case. And then for the last thing I feel that both of them did, and I've seen this before in the different hoaxes, they double down. They have to continue the story. Even if they wanted to change, even if they wanted to kind of back out of it, they were so deep into the story already, it's hard to kind of back out of it. So in their instances, they both double down. They both continue the lie. Jussie continued the lie, continued to say, I would not do this. He did interviews. He went on TV making statements, you know, I would not do this. With Carlethia, when she returned from the woods, when she exited the woods, she then gave the story. Like, she could have just returned home, but she didn't. When she came home and she actually talked to police before she went to the emergency room to seek medical treatment for, okay, well, I'm not going to beat her up too much, but when she went to seek medical treatment, she did tell the police that she was abducted by a white man. So again, they're putting in that race, just like when she said that the baby was a white, well, not baby, but Tyler, that he was white, that he had been walking along the side. He didn't have, she couldn't see any shoes. He was wearing a diaper. They both kind of double down on their stories. So let's get more specific into exactly what they were saying, right? The first thing is, before we even get to this part, we have to remember that they both allege that crimes happened to them. In Jussie Smollett's case, it was the hate crime, the racist and homophobic attack. In Carlethia Russell's case, it was the abduction, that she was abducted, that she was taken. They had taken photographs of her. They made her undress. She escaped 2 times. So they both have different stories, but they both allege that crimes occurred and happened to them. So that's like the number one thing we have to remember. In a hoax, they have an idea when they're planning and devising the scheme or what's going to happen, that a crime has happened to them. Okay? Now, when both incidents happened, oddly enough, to me, they both were strange. When I first heard about Jussie Smollett, it was unbelievable what he said happened to him. In his case, it was just the layering of not just the attack, but they poured bleach on you. Not so much the red, the MAGA hats and the slurs, but just the bleach. And then somehow they were able to fashion a noose. Where would they get a noose from? 2:30 in the morning, but they put that on your neck. They poured the bleach on you. Like, who has bleach? And it's a polar vortex. It's negative 24 degrees. It's freezing cold. Like, you can't even stand outside for a long time. And he's out at this odd hour, super late, walking to get a sandwich, which was also odd. But they just have these stories, and both of their stories, they were done in the darkness. His was at 2:30 in the morning. Hers was about 9:30 p.m. So it was in the dark. Okay. So we're here now. with number 3. So in his case, his props were the bleach. It was the red hats. He really wanted them to say MAGA, but they were only able to find a red hat and the noose. In Carlee's case, she had her car running. So she left her car running on the side of the highway. She left her purse. She took off her watch. She left her cell phone in the grass. So these are things that is going to initiate the idea that something has happened. And in Carlee's case, immediately, where did she go? She was just on the phone. We arrived here in 4 minutes. What happened this fast? Immediate concern. We don't see the child, and we also don't see her. Her car is running. What has happened, right? Well, in Jussie Smollett's case, his hope was that everything would be filmed because the location where he selected, he wanted the camera to pick it up so he could replay it. He wasn't really trying to report it as an attack. He more so wanted to put it out there so he could get the video and have that play. And he wanted to be seen as strong and a hero, and he was fighting back. He wasn't going to take it, and he wasn't accepting this attack on him and these racial slurs and homophobic slurs. He was going to fight back, and he wanted people to see that, not just hear it, but also see it in the video. And that's why he picked the location that he picked. Okay, so they both had what I call a collaborator. The collaborator is the person that's going to get your story out. Now, in Jussie Smollett's case, he actually called his creative director, had his creative director on the phone. So he wanted that because that would be somebody that validates your story. That's somebody that can tell the police what happened. It's like a witness that wasn't physically there, but they're involved and they can repeat what they have heard. Now, in Carlethia Russell's case, it is her brother's girlfriend, because when she got off the phone with 911, she immediately called her and then began to explain to her, this is what I'm doing. I'm getting out the car now. She didn't have the police on the phone and keep them on the phone while she got out the car. She ended the call with the police, then immediately called the brother's girlfriend. And as the conversation is happening with her and she's explaining to her what's going on, which was not true, but just for sake of this conversation, what was happening to her, and she's overhearing it, that would make her also the collaborator, because she can now take the story and carry it on. Tell the police, call Carlee's family, her brother, her mother, her father. It's like now you have somebody that can tell the story without you even being around. They can validate what you said, and you also have the 911 call too. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So again, number 4, as I said, Jussie Smollett, he wanted to be the hero. He wanted that fight to be caught on video so that he would have that to play. Not so much get the police involved, file a police report. No, he wanted the video, right? He should have, well, I don't want to give him no bad advice. Okay, so Carlee, she wanted to be seen as the Good Samaritan. She called 911. She was concerned. She wanted to help this toddler that was somehow lost or walking along the highway. And, she pulled over in the dark and she got out. She showed concern. She wanted to be seen in a positive light, just as well as Mr. Smollett. Okay. So right now, at this point, we're going to go to the number 6, which is, where did they help come from? Now, we know that in the Jussie Smollett case, the Ansandario brothers were paid by check. He wrote a check to them for the acting of attacking him and buying. Well, he paid them $100 to buy the props, but he wrote out a check to pay them for the attack. Now, in Carlee Russell's case, the police are still investigating because this is fairly new. So they don't know who assisted her yet, but I'm sure that's going to eventually come out. So we don't know at this time who assisted her. We don't know if the if her brother's girlfriend was involved, or her parents, or friends, or you know, someone else that wanted to support her in this fake hoax. But the police are still investigating that. Okay, so we don't know at this time for her. Now let's talk about the similarities between the two crimes, right? Okay, we're doing great, you guys. Just want to make sure we're picking up everything. Okay. So let's talk about the similarities between the two. Both of them decided to do the hoaxes at night. And I think they are deciding to do the hoaxes at night is because there's fewer people outside. When it's dark, you know, people can't see what you're doing. If you make a mistake, if you're trying to figure it out, if you don't pull over and think it through a little bit more, you can kind of get away with that. But also, it's just not as many people, and it's not light. So if somebody even wanted to video what you were doing, you would have some room to kind of deny, or, you know, maybe not have everything seen. Just like in the fight, he wanted to be seen as very strong, fighting back, even though the Ansondario brothers were like really large, like body build type. He wanted to be seen as strong. So I'm sure in the acting of it, and he did practice with them. He wanted them to see the area. He wanted to drive them around and show them and help them prepare. He even had a script that they would follow. So certain phrases and words he wanted them to say. And I'm sure with the fight, he wanted to kind of look like he fought back, but don't hurt me, you know, don't hit me too hard because y'all are strong and big. But make it seem as if I'm fighting back. Now, in reality, do we think he, you know, could handle them and their size and two of them? No. But he wanted it to appear in video that he was fighting back, strong, heroic. So the first similarity is they both did it in the time of darkness. The second similarity is they both used props. They both actually planned it out to have items to help them bring about what they were trying to do. Now, in his case, he had the bleach. Jussie Smollett's case, he had the bleach. He wanted bleach to be poured on him. He wanted them to place the noose around his neck, which they would not. When they did the attack, they just laid it on him. They did not feel comfortable putting the noose around his neck. They did get the MAGA hats. They do have pictures showing the Ansondario brothers in the store kind of shopping, buying the items. But they couldn't find one that said "Make America Great Again." So they just got a red hat. In Carlee's case, she had allegedly stolen a robe and tissue from her employer that night when she left work. So they have not been able to recover to this day, as of yet, the robe and, of course, the tissue. But I believe she may have put that on to go through the woods. If she took the path through the woods, she have not told police what she was doing over those 2 days and how she left the area. But I believe if you go through the woods, you would be, your skin will really be torn up and scratched up from the bushes and branches, things like that. So I think that's what she used the robe for. And then, of course, it's notorious now. She went to Target. She got the Cheez-Its. So, you know, it's little jokes or whatever. But I guess she took the Cheez-Its with her to eat. And that would give her something like some type of granola bar or something too. So that's the props. And then the next thing is they both made calls. So they wanted to have that collaborator, somebody on the other end that could carry the story. They both did that. With Jussie Smollett, it was his creative director. I think his name was Frank Gatson. And then with Carlee, it was her brother's girlfriend. The next one is they both alleged crimes happened to them. So again, he had the idea of the hate crime, the homophobic crime, the attack, and then Carlee did the abduction, kidnapping. That was the crime for her. Now let's talk about some of the fallacies, some of the things that made the stories not believable. So in Mr. Smollett's case, in my opinion, now these are my thoughts, polar vortex, negative 24 degrees. I'm sure, I've shared some of the videos. People just didn't think it was real. people in Chicago that lived there from there. And the area was really, really nice where he lived. So people just didn't believe that would happen to him. Another part that was very hard was the bleach, you know, somebody being around at 2:30 a.m. know you would be out, know it's you, and then have bleach prepared to pour on you, as well as the noose. The red hat, that wasn't too big of a deal issue for me because people do buy hats. But the bleach and the noose were just things that were unbelievable. Another thing, they have a video of him when he was allegedly fighting back. He still was holding his Subway sandwich. So that's kind of like a joke also. You know, people don't believe it. The fact that he wrote a check to the Ansondario brothers. Now, he tried to say that the check was for some training and things like that, but they were like, no, you need to pay us the remaining $500. We don't care what you got going on. We did it. You were successful. We beat you up. It's out in the public. We did a great job. Our acting was on point. We showed up on time. We worked hard. We were in character. Pay us our money. You owe us $500. Run us our money. So people couldn't really imagine that he would pay them in the form of a check for the hoax, but he did. The other thing was when they attacked him, they would not put the noose on his neck. So he put the noose on his neck, and they have video of him going into his apartment building. So the noose was not tight initially, but when he got inside, he actually tightened the noose up. So the noose actually was like gathered tightly all the way up here. And I thought it was so odd when you watch the video police cam, and I shared it. The police are like, do you want to take that off? Because they were uncomfortable. Like, you still have, why are you walking around with this noose on your neck? Take the noose off. Like, it's okay if you take it off. And he still was wearing the bleach clothes. He told the police in the video cam something like, I could smell. I'm like, oh my goodness, it smells like bleach. I know what bleach smells like. I think they poured bleach on me. He was walking around with the bleach clothes on. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, if somebody poured bleach on me, I'm taking these clothes off. I'm getting in the shower. I'm about to moisturize my skin. I would not be sitting there waiting on the police to show them the noose on my neck and the bleach clothes. Just unbelievable. The other thing is, when he had the fight, he didn't have really any injuries, as well as Carlee. If you're kidnapped, you're abducted, did they put tape on you, on your face, on your legs, on your wrists, over your eyes? She didn't have any injuries. She didn't have any rope burns or marks. She didn't look like she was in a struggle. Her clothes weren't ripped. She came home with clothes. Just so many things. It just didn't make sense. So both of them had like very little injuries. He had like little cuts on his face, like little scratches. But if you're fighting two people or tussling one person strong, I mean, you might be really injured. And it's their size. I mean, they could break your bones and easily. So it was weird. And then they actually got a video of the Ansondario brothers at the store, like buying the props. So it just made everything like really odd. But people didn't believe what happened to him in Chicago immediately. I know I didn't either. Now let's go over to some fallacies in Carlee's situation. One thing that was really big that stood out when I watched the video once they released it of her pulled over on the highway, it was so dark. I'm just wondering to myself, like, I could barely see her car. She had the hazards on with lights. So how did she see a toddler? Like, to me, it just didn't seem believable. And then from my experience, highway driving, if you get behind a trucker, they can take you to wherever you need to go because they're up higher and they have those lights and they can kind of guide you in those dark areas where there is no lights. So when I'm thinking to myself, like, no truckers saw the toddler? I mean, nobody ever pulled over. Nobody ever reported a toddler. Nobody ever pulled over even to assist her. So that was really odd to me. The fact that she stole the robe and the tissue from her job, that was like a big mistake. The fact that she did those searches on her cell phone, so they have a way to kind of see your history, and they saw that she looked for the movie Taken, which is about a girl that was abducted. She did searches about the child Amber Alert, like does that cost? Just so many strange things that really made her story appear to be a hoax. I know police had to be feeling like something is not right. Something doesn't make sense about this. So when she came back home, so we're here now, number 7, she refused to sit down with the police. And as I did on one of my other boards, why wouldn't you talk to law enforcement? Wouldn't you want to take them to where you were? Wouldn't you want to show them what happened? Wouldn't you want to do a police artist sketch to get a photo out? Wouldn't you want to describe where they took you? Do you remember? Did you see anything? What kind of vehicle? What kind of semi? Did they have any writing? Like so many things to assist law enforcement. It just didn't happen. So that was unfortunate. And then at some point, the police said they cannot confirm any parts of her story. They had solidified her leaving work, going to pick up food that she ordered, going to Target, and then pulling over to the side of the road. But after that, none of what she told them when she returned home that she said happened to her when she was allegedly abducted, they couldn't confirm any of her story. And they wanted to sit down and they wanted to talk to her more, of course. So in the end, right here, both of them were arrested. I believe in the Jussie Smollett case, if he had not doubled down and he really was pushing the Chicago Police Department to do something about it because they had used so many resources, and he really was calling them out. And, they didn't want that stain on their city because they're working hard to make changes, make improvements, reduce crime. And now you're coming out with this hoax, and pretty much from the beginning, they knew it didn't make any sense. I believe they said by the 3rd day, they had basically been able to hone in on the Assandario brothers. So they were aware. Yeah, they were aware. Now, in Carlee's case, I think about that first day, they were doing searches and they were looking, so they really didn't know what happened to her. She was technically just a missing person at that time, which is concerning, but they didn't know. Now, when she returned home and she then gave the statement about being abducted, then that's where it went all wrong for her. She could have just said, hey, I need time to myself. I did not mean to do this. I'm sorry, but that's not what happened. So later she admitted through a statement through her attorney that there was no toddler because people were still concerned, still wondering, was there a toddler out there? And she finally admitted there was no toddler and there was no kidnapping. So that was really wild. I want to check my notes just to make sure that I covered everything. They both had really elaborate stories, and they tried to pretend to be victims, both of them, and it's just unfortunate. And most people, they want to believe you, they want to help you, they want to try to find you, and they want to get you back. And in both instances, also similarities, they both said they fought back. Carlee's boyfriend at the time, which I think they're not together, but he said she fought for 2 days, 48 hours, 49 hours. And then Jussie Smollett, he said that he wanted people to know, it was important for people to know that he fought back, which I found to be really, really odd. And Carlee also said that she escaped twice. So that was something else. Just needing to seek attention. They wanted sympathy. They wanted people to perceive them in a certain light. They wanted people to care. They wanted attention. But their stories didn't make any sense, and they couldn't verify really any of Carlee's story. So that was really wild. I think I pretty much hit on all my points. I have a lot of notes, so they both tried to get away with it. Yeah. Oh, this was the last thing that I thought about. in Jussie Smollett's case, he was able, remember I said that they want to generate outrage and concern. He was able to really tap into how people felt. At that time, the Black Lives Movement was going, and they really wanted people to support when Black people come out, support them. So there was a big push to try to get people to support his story and say, well, historically, this has happened to Black people. This has been the struggle. We have been attacked. We have fought. And bad things have happened to us. So we need to believe him. And that's the unfortunate thing in his case, because he did come from a family. He did come from a foundation where they did work towards civil justice, civil rights for Black people. So that was something that the judge really tapped in and was just saying how ironic this is that you have stood up for justice and civil rights and, trying to create a path, build a bridge. And you actually did something that harmed not just yourself, but that movement. We don't want to go back. We want to keep building, establishing better things going forward with race and people and just, interrelationships. So that was something that the judge highlighted, and I agree 100%. His sentencing statements were exceptional. You should definitely, I put it in my page, should definitely watch that. And then for Carlee Russell, I think what was probably the most unfortunate thing was it had involved the community in a way that people came out and they wanted to rally for her and support her. And Anaya Blanchard's mother, she has, and I've said this before, she has a nonprofit called Anaya's Heart, where they go out and they do searches. They just try to support the families, and they try to bring those missing people home, and they got involved. And that can also trigger you and make it difficult to kind of, not necessarily do the work, but just the fact that, you're really a crime victim. Your experience, the loss that you have, and it hasn't even been that long. You could relive it. It could tap into you as you're looking for this person. It could be similarities. It could be another abduction. You're hoping that this person comes back home, but your child didn't come back home. So I think that was the most unfortunate thing in Carlethia Russell's case. So I just wanted to kind of go over, the idea of the hoax and how more and more people are creating hoaxes, and they're elaborate. I could have talked about some other people too, but I just wanted to stick it to two. And a lot of people were just comparing Carlethia to Jussie. So I wanted to do that for you guys so you could kind of see that these are not just plans that are haphazardly happening. These are elaborate. They're buying items to do it. They're thinking ahead. They're creating a location, a time, they're pulling people into it. And unfortunately, you don't know that it's a hoax until you put those resources out there, until you investigate. And for, law enforcement, that's tough because you're required to respond. You're required to show up. And it's got to be deflating for them to spend all this time and all of this money when, they don't have these huge budgets. They don't have a huge staff. Sometimes people are volunteering. They're coming from all places. They're getting people to come and search. And, it's all a lie. And that's why they're now prosecuting, and they need to probably go back to the laws in these different states and make them harsher, make them, jail time and fines, and make them require them to reimburse these agencies and cities. They have to take a look at that. So, it's really unfortunate that people are spending their time in a negative way. Maybe they can do some outreach, and work in some of these groups, give back in a way that will be meaningful, and they will have a better understanding of what really happens when a person goes missing or you report a fake crime. Like, make them volunteer, make them go on these police runs, make them spend time and let them see what's really happening, because it's hard. It's very hard in a stressful environment when you work in law enforcement, and every day you kind of go through hard times because you're experiencing one trauma after another. When you go out and you don't know what you're going to get at the scene, you don't know who's going to show up. If somebody has a gun, is the assailant still there? Is the assailant coming back? Is the family involved? Did the family cover it up? Is drugs involved? You want to make it home every day. So that's why I'm doing this video. It's about the hoax, but on the flip side, we want to see that change. We don't want to see people spending this time when they could be doing something positive. Okay? So thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was interesting to you. And then I'm coming back with some new stuff. I want to turn my attention back to the Idaho 4, just to kind of talk about the differences between a preliminary hearing, and that's something that didn't happen because the prosecutor, they decided to do a grand jury indictment. So there was no preliminary hearing. So we need to know the difference, and we need to know why this issue is coming up now, because there are standards, for example, beyond a reasonable doubt. The preponderance of the evidence. So we need to know those legal terms. So I'm putting something together about the Idaho 4, but more so about the legal process of what's happening right now in the case. And then I also have something special that the FBI just released yesterday. So I'm going to work on that. And I may get that out before the Idaho 4 stuff. I don't know. But just thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I want you to just be safe, be smart, make great decisions, always